You're listening to They Shoot Films with Ken Mercer and F.T. Kosempa.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of They Shoot Films, the podcast where we talk about the films that matter. My name is Ken Mercer, and I'm joined here, as always, by the great F.T. Kosempa. F.T., how are you?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling apologetic.
Apologetic? What do you have to apologize for?
Well, I think we, FT, don't put this all on me. We need to, we here at They Shoot Films need to issue a formal apology. We try never to miss one of our air dates.
Yes.
We've never missed an air date in the entire history of They Shoot Films, and even before that, when we were doing podcast for Film Symposium West, never missed an air date. Which, by the way, if you're not aware, and if you weren't aware, I guess we don't owe you an apology. But for anybody who is waiting for the this episode to drop, we normally, our scheduled date is the first Tuesday of every month. We're a once-a-month podcast now, and if you did look for us last Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, you found we weren't there, and we want to apologize for that. FT, would you want to apologize to the listeners, please?
I guess so. I apologize.
Okay. Can you say it like
you mean it? I apologize. I am so sorry, but it wasn't our fault.
I was going to say FT always with the excuses, but in this case, I'm with FT. We tried our best.
Yes.
We were in our studios the day before Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
We were in our studios. Everybody else was out barbecuing and having picnics, and that was the date we had set to record. And we had to do it that date. I was desperate because since it was the day before Memorial Day, it was the last possible day to record before FT started wearing white pants for the season. Anyway, we're in the studio. We were set to record. FT was not in white pants.
No.
And our podcast recording software, who we will not name because there is pending litigation, would not work. And we tried everything. We spent hours with support agents who were really AI agents, and went around in circles for hours and hours, well into the wee hours of the day before Memorial Day, and then we kept trying
the day of.
Actually, Memorial Day we tried to record the next day. We are now sitting here recording the Wednesday after Memorial Day, and finally our podcast software is finally back working again. No thanks to the AI tech support agents at the software company who shall remain nameless.
Yes, the nameless software company.
Anyway, we're finally here in the long-awaited podcast, and thank you for waiting a week to hear it. We're going to be discussing Richard Linklater's 1993 film Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
Yes, that woke FT up. FT, who are you calling Dazed and Confused?
What?
And we're going to be diving deep into this one. There's actually we're going to discuss the origins of the film and some of the deeper themes of the film, and we also I think are going to get into how we now know that Martha Washington was one hip lady.
3 hips and a hooray. That's right. That's right. Packing a bowl.
FT.
Yes, Ken.
Why are we doing this film?
I don't know. Why are we doing this film, buddy? Help me out.
It's now it is Memorial Day is the unofficial start of summer. And this seemed like a very appropriate film, a film that takes place on the last day of school in 1976. And
the bicentennial year, yes.
Yeah, so it seemed like a perfect film to tap into what we thought was going to be the first day of summer when we were going to record this. It's funny, though, FT. I think that again, this is about the last day of school, which, as kids, that's the start of summer when that day, when that bell rings, the last day of school, it's, school's out for summer, as Alice Cooper once sang. But it's funny. I think even it becomes ingrained in us. I think even as adults, I feel like we're kind of in this. When this time of year rolls around, it's like something turns over. It's summertime now. We're gonna act differently. Do you agree with that?
No, but I understand what you're saying. Well, just like Labor Day, where I get it is Labor Day, back to school. That's where I get it.
It's interesting. Sorry. So when Labor Day comes around, you're like, oh, summer's starting? What are you saying?
Back to school. I get the opposite side. It's back to school. I used to get that a little bit.
Okay, so FT, question, and not meaning to be, condescending.
Did I go to school?
No, but if you never feel the start of summer, how can you feel the end of summer?
I just did. It's a miracle. Okay. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
The weird thing is living in New York for so long, remember, New York kids don't get out to June. Mid-June.
Okay, right.
It's unusual.
No, it's the same thing in California, I think.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
PA, it was around Memorial Day. But also, this was a busy time in my father's business. So there was other things going on Memorial Day in the tombstone business.
Right.
So that was a big rush.
Well, that was kind of my next point is, again, I think for a lot of Americans, this is like an ingrained pattern, summer, when schools get out, it's summertime, even if they're adults. But I think it is, you didn't have it in Pennsylvania, even though Pennsylvania is, I think it's an American thing, because I would imagine if you were a Chinese worker in the Foxconn factory screwing together iPhones, I think June 21st would probably just mean that there's 213 more days of work.
Yes. Yes.
It's good to be an American. It's good to be the buyers of iPhones and not the makers of iPhones, even though our current president seems to think it's important, better to be the makers of iPhones.
Okie dokes. Yes.
Sorry to get political on you, FT.
Oh, yeah. Hey, watch it. Yeah, political.
We started off political earlier when I said that Martha Washington was one hip lady. So I just kept going with it.
You did. Took that ball and ran it over the goal line.
FT.
Ken.
But tell me about your first time seeing Dazed and Confused. When did you see it? When did you first see it? When it first came out, or a year later, or when it first came out on video? When did you first see Dazed and Confused?
15 days ago.
15 days ago.
Yes.
So you had never seen it before?
Nope.
How come?
I don't know. It just never appealed to me. I just it's Dazed and Confused. I had no idea. And I think I saw the stupid, the one poster had the sad face, smiley face.
Yes.
And I was just like, and then, it's just, it didn't appeal to me.
Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I kind of explain that to the audience, what you just said? Yeah. So FT saw the poster. He saw had a smiley face and a sad face.
Yes.
And he was like, the smiley face was like, I don't want to see a film if there's a smiley face. He only wants the ones with the sad faces.
Was it a smiley face or
I think it was just a smiley face. It was like a have a nice day thing from the 70s.
Yes.
But I think we're going to come back to this a little bit. This film was famously mismarketed by the movie studio.
Right. Ken, so what about you? When did you first see the film Dazed and Confused? I
believe my wife told me I saw it in the theaters when it first came out. I had no real. I'd known I'd seen it. I didn't remember seeing it in the theater. Usually, if I really respond to a film, I have sense memory of the theater I was in when I can remember the theater. This one, I didn't even remember I saw it in the theater, but my wife tells me that I did see it in the theater. It did not make much of an impression on me. I was disappointed by it because I went into the theater expecting another teen comedy along the lines of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and I didn't think it succeeded as a teen comedy like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's only now looking back at it and taking a deeper look at it, that was never Richard Linklater's intention to do a teen comedy. And again, that was part of the mismarketing of the film because the studio marketed it as another teen comedy. And on rewatching this film to prepare for this episode, I realized that Linklater was really trying to make some really serious points in terms of theme, and that's exactly what happened in the theaters and the broader culture. The audience went there thinking it was going to be a stupid teen comedy like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Ferris Bueller's, and they didn't get it, and they were disappointed, and the film bombed at the box office. But like a lot of films that are the great films,
yes,
it bombed at the box office and then became reappraised as time went on, to the point where it's now considered a work of art and one of the most important films in American independent cinema, and has a huge cult following. All of which I hope are listening to this podcast.
Every one of them.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's interesting that there are some films that work really hard to kind of announce that they're serious films, that they're arty films, and I feel like Dazed and Confused does the opposite. It seems like this slight, not serious stoner comedy on the surface, but I think it's subversive because it uses the teen comedy, stoner comedy, Cheech and Chong conventions, but I think it smuggles in some serious themes and cinematic ideas, and we're going to be breaking them down as we go along on this podcast, if you'll permit me to do so, FT.
I will. I beg you to.
Jason Reitman, the director of Up in the Air and Juno and Thank You for Smoking and a lot of other great films, said about this film, Linklater perfectly walks this tightrope between a very avant-garde movie in which nothing really happens and an extraordinarily entertaining movie where the stakes couldn't be higher. So Quentin Tarantino saw this film. FT, what do you think Quentin Tarantino would think of Dazed and Confused?
He loved it.
You know that? Or are you guessing?
I'm just guessing.
No, he hated it.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he thought no. He in his 2002 Sight and Sound poll, the British Film Institute every year does a film, asking people to vote on the greatest films ever made, and on Quentin Tarantino's 2002 ballot, each person who votes on the ballot can pick 10 films, their 10 favorite films, and Dazed and Confused was one of his top 10 films ever, and he's spoken about it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's spoken about it multiple times, how much he loves the film. He talked about, I think when he was writing Pulp Fiction, and he was in France, and he was feeling very alone and lonely and didn't know anybody. He rented Dazed and Confused, and he felt like he was with his friends again, hanging out. He said, Quentin Tarantino always talks about trying to make hangout films, the characters hanging out, just bullshitting, and he feels Dazed and Confused is a great example of this. Actually, there's an interesting Quentin Tarantino, Richard Linklater story about the first time they met. Any interest in that, FT?
Oh, I have tons of interest.
So
oodles.
Yeah. So yes. as the story goes, Quentin Tarantino decides to go to a midnight showing of Nashville, the Robert Altman film.
Yes.
And it's a midnight showing. This is in L.A., not in Paris. It's in L.A.
Right.
How long is Nashville? Do you know?
I think 3.
Yeah, it's a super. So going to see a midnight screening of Nashville is quite ambitious, and the film ends, and Tarantino says it was, at least in his description, the theater was pretty sparsely attended, and the lights come up after the credits, and Richard Linklater is in the theater.
How about that?
And that's how they first met, and I would argue that this film has the ghost of Bob Altman hanging over it.
Yes.
Again, this multi-character, this huge ensemble, and again, the camera going off with different characters. A younger director who also has this thing where multiple characters and the camera goes off, a new character shows off and they go off with them. These characters might be working in the porn industry.
for $50.
Yeah, you got it, FT? Who is it? Who are we talking about here?
P.T. Anderson.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah. Another filmmaker, hugely influenced by Nashville.
Yes.
Before we dive further into this episode, wanted to give some credit where credit is due. Some of the books we used to prepare for this episode, I'd like to call out the book by Melissa Mayers, All Right, All Right, All Right. Actually, I should say that, All Right, All Right, All Right. The Oral History of Dazed and Confused. Party at the Moon Tower by Samantha James. And also Richard Linklater's own diary about the making of Dazed and Confused, which is called Dazed by Dazed. He originally wrote it for the Austin Chronicle, and it's still out there on the interwebs if people want to go find it and read. It's a good read about about the ups and downs of being a filmmaker. Yes,
that was his first studio film, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good reminder, FT. We usually do origins of these films. Do you think we should dive into the origins of Dazed and Confused?
Yeah. Feels like there's a story there, you know.
Well, there might be. But let's let the audience be the judge of that. So Richard Linklater was a football star in high school, much like the protagonist of this film, Pink Floyd. And he was set to be the starting quarterback in his senior year at his high school, just like Randall Pink Floyd. But he was also a baseball star, much like Mitch in this movie.
And younger and older,
yeah. And he ended up walking away from being the starting quarterback as a senior in his high school in Texas, in Huntsville, Texas, small town
senior
Texas.
Year.
Well, he was a junior. He was going into his senior year. Yeah. Just like Randall Pink Floyd in this movie, and he chose not to move forward as quarterback of the senior team. A couple of things to keep in perspective, and again, it's part of this film. In Texas, high school football is king. You know, the whole town, there's not much. They go to Friday. You've seen the TV show Friday Night Lights. This is a thing.
How's your dad doing?
He's doing great.
This arm ready to throw about 2,000 yards next fall?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
We're depending on you, boys. And let me tell you what, you're looking good. 13 starters coming back, 22 lettermen. Looking tough.
Yeah. Well, you folks take care.
Okay, good to see you, Randy.
He was that star. He was going to be the starting quarterback, and he walked away from it.
He didn't play anything, or what?
Good follow-up, FT. I was waiting for that. Yeah, so what he ended up doing was there was another high school in Houston. His parents had gotten divorced. His father lived in Houston, and he hardly ever saw his father. But there was a high school in Houston that had the number one baseball team number one ranked baseball team in the state of Texas. He transferred to that high school to play baseball.
Oh my! For his senior year.
For a senior year, and became a starter on that baseball team, number one in the state, and then got a college scholarship to be a baseball player.
How about that?
And that was going to be his life until fate intervened.
What was the fate? A medical issue?
Oh, did you know this, FT?
No, I didn't. I'm just, that's usually it. He either got injured or blew his rotator cuff or something like that.
No, it turned out he got diagnosed. He started feeling weak and short of breath. He got diagnosed with atrial fibrillation.
Jesus.
Which
at like 18, 17?
Yeah, and now, by the way, for older men, it's kind of epidemic.
Yeah.
And now they have treatments, they have drugs, they have these ablation procedures.
Yes.
Back then, they had none of that.
Right.
And so they told him, no more sports, son.
Forget it. Wow. Huh.
I don't think he graduated high school. He might have graduated high school, but when he did graduate high school, he left and got a job on a crew of an offshore oil rig in the Gulf of Texas, now called the Gulf of. Then it was called the Gulf of Mexico, now called the Gulf of America. Why are you laughing?
Nothing. I don't know what to say about any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
Yes.
So these jobs on offshore oil rigs, you go out on a boat very far offshore. You're delivered there, and it's like
years.
I think it was when he was on it, maybe 2 or 3 weeks on the rig.
Yeah.
And then you get boated back, and you get like a week off or something like that. And to pass the time on this offshore oil rig, he bought a VCR, and this was mid '80s, so kind of
VHS-y.
Yeah, new technology. He bought a VCR, started renting all these tapes, and discovered movies. And growing up in Texas as a sports guy, filmmaking films were not a thing, but he became immersed in foreign films. Fellini, Fassbender, Truffaut, and Bresson were his big loves. Scorsese he also loved, and he would just rent all these films, watch them on the oil rig, and he saved up $18,000 working on an oil rig, which was a lot of money back then.
Fucking A, yeah.
He quit the oil rig, moved to Austin, Texas, and he didn't work. All he did was watch films for the next few years. It was later reported that he watched over 600 films every year.
Okay, 2 a day or 3, and then with a break. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Not
but VHS or in theaters. I mean, it was
no, both.
Right.
And good question, because he started the Austin Film Society.
Right. It's on the Internet Archives. Yeah. There's a bunch of their proceedings. I've looked at it. It's interesting.
Yeah. So he founded the Austin Film Society in 1985 to bring foreign films, art films to Austin. So he was seeing them in theaters. Probably there were, the universities there. He was probably able to maybe see films there. But combination of VCR and theater viewing, 600 films a year. He called it his film school. By the way, do you know who his partner in founding the Austin Film Society was, FT?
I do not.
It was Lee Daniel, the cinematographer. Yeah. And I think Lee Daniel was working at the only camera rental place in Austin, and the owner told Lee he could take the equipment when it was not in use, which was how they got the equipment to shoot Slacker.
Right.
Yeah. And kind of a tragic story with Lee Daniel. Bring a downer into the podcast. He got into some kind of serious accident and lost the use of one of his arms. And this was after Dazed and Confused. He tried to keep his career going. Apparently, he was shooting documentaries using one arm, and then apparently became addicted to drugs and
painkillers.
Painkillers that I think led to stuff that didn't come out of a bottle.
Shit.
Yeah, so not a happy ending for what I think could have been a bright career for Lee Daniel. I like what he did in this film.
Yeah, and Slacker, a shot on 16 wasn't bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Linklater shot 28 over 20 short films, and he also did an 8mm feature film, a full-length feature film on 8mm before he did Slacker in 1989, with a budget of $23,000 of his own money. And in Austin, it was a thing. Like there was there's a theater in Austin where it sold out every night for years. Which since the film is all these Austin characters and it's set in Austin, but its fame grew beyond Austin. You did see Slacker?
I did, and I did a little reading about it too. Yeah, it was a real communal effort. It was conspicuous, in Austin that they were shooting this film. Yeah, interesting film. Want me say something about it, or
yeah. The
floor is mine. It's interesting in that it's what they call the pass the baton kind of film.
Right.
It starts with character A, and which is Linklater, by the way. The opening sequence is him in a cab. Talking about, what happens if I didn't take a cab, And it has all these rants that are either reasonable or crazy that will appear in some form later on in Dazed and Confused, like the George Washington weed thing, But anyhow, so it goes from character A to character B, and either they'll meet to interact or the camera just glides off onto the next person. And it goes on to maybe 18 characters, which it doesn't repeat. And there's crazy stuff there. Like,
can I interrupt you there to ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you called it a pass the baton film, and as you described it, it's like you're with one character, it runs into another character, you go off with them.
Yes.
Was that technique invented by Richard Linklater, or did he take it from a filmmaker who admired?
I was going to bring it up. There's two films. Films.
Go ahead, please.
La Ronde by the great Max O'Fool.
Okay.
There's but there it keeps coming back to the Master of Ceremonies.
Okay.
And in L'Argent, by Robert Bresson. Yeah, it was the other one.
Yep.
But there, it's interesting that the 50 francs or whatever it is, 500 francs, it disappears, my recollection, from the story. You know what I mean?
Right. Sorry, Frank.
Yeah.
FT, for the audience who may not. So, pronounce the title, please.
L'Argent.
Yeah, L'Argent, which is a film by Robert Bresson.
Yeah.
It follows around a 50 franc
banknote
from person.
Yeah.
That rather than a baton being literally passed,
right.
It is a 50 franc banknote gets passed from one character to another,
yes.
and then the camera goes off with that character. Please proceed. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
No, that's about it. Then it that's it. There's wacky rants in there. And it's interesting. I had a hard time at the beginning. I'm like, this is really not working, because they were like, a person talking about UFOs and the moon landing, and they, how the NASA didn't tell us about the other spaceship that was on the moon. So there's people ranting about that.
Right.
There's about the Smurfs, how the social commentary of the Smurfs, how it's brainwashing, getting us ready for, Hare Krishna takeover. And then there's, I believe, and I did look this up, the drummer for Butthole Surfers, she's trying to sell to two characters Madonna's pap smear. It's like Lower East Side New York when I was there, the crazy zines that would come out, the crazy stuff, alternative underground shit.
Do you know why there were so many, and there were always bumper stickers. I think the saying for Austin was "Keep Austin Weird."
Yeah.
Do you know why there was so many, less than stable characters in Austin?
I do.
Please tell.
Yeah,
please
because
tell.
Part of the Ronald Reagan shakeup was stopping federal funding to a lot of the mental institutions, right?
Yes.
And people were let out. They were let out.
Yeah. The huge state mental hospital
was
in Austin, and they just let the inmates. The inmates were not running the asylum. The inmates were released from the asylum and kind of running the independent film business in Austin.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Literally.
So
yeah.
Slacker, we should note, was so seminal in what became independent American independent film.
Yes.
So now in the mid-'90s, there's this gold rush for independent filmmakers because Reservoir Dogs made a lot of money for Miramax. Sex, Lies, and Videotape made money. All the Spike Lee. So the studios are now on the hunt for the next independent film. Richard Linklater already, had this buzz about Slacker. So Universal offered him a deal to do Dazed and Confused.
Right, with a big budget.
Relative
to $23,000, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Universal gave them definitely a bigger budget, and there was a lot of friction because Tom Pollock, the head of Universal, thought he was buying another teen comedy. And when Tom Pollock finally, he had never seen Slacker, and when he saw Slacker, he freaked out and said, "What are we doing? Why are we in business with this guy?" But they were too far along at that point, and he had two producers on this film. One of them also named Daniel, last name of Daniel, that were key because they had a deal with Universal where they could put a film. So in other words, their production deal, they were independent producers at Universal, but they had a put picture in their contract. So in their contract, they could do a picture, and basically Universal would have to do it. And they threatened to make, when they went back and forth with Universal and Tom Pollock, they said they were going to make it their put picture, at which point Universal kind of acquiesced and moved forward the film. But there was a lot of friction with Universal on the making of the film, as there always seems to be.
They expected it just to be like another teen comedy like Fast Times, or...
Well, that's what Tom Pollock thought. That's what the studio wanted.
Right.
But, the friction went on and on. Usually when a first-time when a director does a studio film for the first time, the move the studio always is like they put like an A-list cinematographer, a very experienced A-list cinematographer on the film. The cinematographer brings the crew. The cinematographer brings the crew, and they put you with an experienced cinematographer who the studio knows is basically going to be like a de facto director.
Of the image, at least, yeah.
No, beyond it. Well, all
setting
the
up setups.
Yeah. I think I told the story before on the podcast. I once directed a TV commercial with Alan Davio, the A-list cinematographer, had done a lot of Spielberg films, Barry Levinson films, Peter Weir films, and I was, I had my choice of cinematographers. So when the production company, which was Propaganda, said, "Oh, Alan Davio is available," I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, yeah, I'll work with him." And it was, he came, he wanted to be a partner in the direction and talk about everything and give a lot of the benefits of his experience, which I was more than happy to have.
Huh.
Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff from Alan, but coming Dazed and Confused, Linklater's like, "No, Lee Daniel is my cinematographer, and we're shooting in Austin," which the studio didn't love, other than it was much cheaper to shoot in Austin. So It was basically so Lee Daniel, a lot of the same crew, a lot of the same people had worked on Slacker, and casting. He wanted to cast unknowns. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
None of the things that make the studio jump up and down.
Right.
It's interesting, FT, how autobiographical. Since we were talking about Linklater's biography, and you were like, we talked about, I said football
athlete,
player.
Yeah.
You were like, oh yeah, that's like Pink, or a baseball player like Mitch. It's unbelievable how autobiographical this film is when you start to dig into the research. Specifically, Melissa Mayer's book, All Right. She actually interviews students from Richard Linklater's high school in Huntsville.
Oh, wow.
And it's very interesting. I don't know if they'll ring any bells for you, but can I read some of the names of people that went to high school with Richard Linklater?
Sure, of course.
And see if any of them seem interesting to you. Siobhan Conroy, Richard Pink Floyd, Keith Pickford, Andy Slater, Bobby Wooderson. You're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Yes, because those are the characters in
Yes.
Dazed and Confused. Yes.
So even more interesting. So yes, he basically used
their names.
And
that's right. Oh.
What?
So these are like yearbook names. These are real people. He used their names. I missed your point. Oh, okay. I thought you were joking.
No.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
right.
so he used real...
It's like me using Ken Mercer,
right,
for another character.
Yeah. Or anybody you went to high school with.
Wow.
And so it's interesting. Much after the film became
Mike
a
Federici.
hit.
Nook.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So not when the film came out, but after the film became a huge hit, 3 people sued Universal over the film.
Oh, nice.
Bobby Wooderson. The complainants, the plaintiffs were Bobby Wooderson, Andy Slater, and Richard Pink Floyd brought a suit against Universal Pictures, and they sued on the grounds that they had suffered embarrassment and ridicule because of the film characters based on them, which, quote, for negative infliction of emotional distress.
What's positive affliction
I don't
of
know.
emotional distress? That's crazy. Oh, one's not a doper, and one would sign the pledge. Oh my God.
Yeah. And
Wooderson wasn't like a older guy.
Right.
Wow.
So the Washington Post, after the lawsuit was filed, assigned a reporter to go to Texas and sit down in the lawyer's office with the lawyers representing Wooderson, Slater, and Floyd, and their attorneys. And I pulled a few quotes from that article if you're interested.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. This is crazy.
Yes. So the lawsuit was Wooderson et al. Versus Universal Studios Inc. et al. So Linklater was also one of the defendants and one of the et als, along with the producers and everybody else who they could get money from. So the Washington Post sat down in the lawyer's office with Wooderson, Slater, Pink. They were all sitting around the conference table at the law office. And the interview is hilarious because Wooderson and et al. Keep saying things that just undermine the case, and the attorneys just keep jumping in and saying and trying to bring it. Yeah. So I have a quote here. So this is Andy Slater, now 45 at the time of this this interview. Quote: This is Andy Slater. Like, for example, the scene that shows me showing somebody how to make a bong in shop class, says Andy Slater, now 45. I did not do that. I never did that. But they use my name and they show me making a bong in shop class. Slater pauses for a second, then smiles. I don't sit around the house making bongs. Damn it. And then the article goes on. And so Wooderson and Floyd break up laughing. But their lawyers aren't laughing. The lawyers are trying to keep this whole thing very serious,
right?
And so they're one of their attorneys, named with the last name of Robbins, says, "quote It's going to be interesting as we get into the discovery phase of this case." Robbins adds, in their lawsuit, the Dazed Three did not specifically specify how much money they think Linklater and Universal should be compelled to pony up. But Robbins says, quote, "It's no different from a case where your leg is cut off in an automobile accident. What is that leg worth?"
Lots and lots of money, man. As much as you can get. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, my God.
The case
it just goes on.
The case went away. I don't know if it was just dismissed or dropped, or I think the lawyers found that Wooderson and Slater and Floyd would not be good on the stand, because in this interview they just keep making jokes about stuff.
Right.
I don't sit around the living room making bongs. Damn it. But the film is, again, being so autobiographical, the hazing, which I want to talk about with you in the film, which, at first glance, seems so over the top and everything else, is pretty much from his autobiography. In another Washington Post, in that Washington Post article, which you're just talking about, Richard Pink Floyd, the original Richard Pink Floyd, who he went to high school with, who, by the way, was older than Linklater. Richard Pink Floyd told the Washington Post he remembers paddling Linklater's butt in a hazing ritual.
Huh.
And in Melissa Mayer's book, Pickford talks about making a paddle in shop class and drilling holes into it, to cut the air resistance on the paddle strokes.
Where I'm from, that was more of a frat boy college thing, the paddles.
Yeah. And apparently, reading the reality of this stuff, basically the whole town would turn out to watch, where the girls get sprayed with stuff. The whole town would pull up and set up lawn chairs to watch that going on.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. Hence Mike saying that line, right, about this being sanctioned.
That was horrible, you little slut girls, you little freshman sluts. Get up! Get up!
And see, what's fascinating is the way not only the school, but the entire community seems to be supporting this, or at least turn their heads. I mean, they apparently have permission to use the parking lot.
Right.
No parents seem to mind, So they're selling concessions, I mean.
I know.
The seniors, we tried. We gave you all a chance, but since you little prick teases can't follow instructions.
Yeah. And it's in reality, reading Melissa Mayer's book, the hazing for the girls was much worse than what we see in this film. They talk about, they would take eggs, bury them underground for like 3 months, and then throw them at the freshmen, and they would just smell horrible. Yeah, Parker Posey, interviewed in Melissa Mayer's book, who was not in Richard Linklater's high school, but was in another high school in the South, maybe Mississippi.
That's where she's from.
She talks about when she was coming up, they would make the freshmen, they would take oysters, take a needle with thread, put some thread through an oyster, make the freshmen swallow the oyster, and then pull it back out of them using the thread.
Oh.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah. What was your take on the hazing in the film, FT?
It was too much for me. It really was. Even on the second viewing, I was just like, wow. But, I saw it as one of the organizing elements of the whole thing, signing the pledge, the hazing, getting a party. But it did. And plus, it didn't ring for my experience. I came from a real sports area, Western PA. You talked about Texas with football. Same thing, football, baseball, right. Wrestling, and it just wasn't a big deal there.
Yeah, no, it was not a thing in New Jersey where I went to high school that I can remember now.
Right.
But I think the first time you watched Dazed and Confused, and we talked briefly on the phone, you had a real problem with the hazing.
Yeah, I hated it.
And I think again, this is the thing. He was not making a Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
right.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nor was he making it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clearly the viewpoint of the filmmaker is not glorifying the hazing like in a movie like Porky's or something like that, or American Pie. He's not showing it as, these funny frat boy jokes. The hazing is made to seem wrong and uncomfortable and
brutal.
Bad. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where I was from, it was more like personal. People would have personal grudges, like there were seniors that had a grudge against me because of my brother. He was a bit of a bully.
Your brother told him to go easy on you, and that made
right. But what would happen was, you'd play dodgeball with basketballs, and they would save me, save Kasempa, save Kasempa, and then they would get me in a corner and smash me with a bunch of basketballs, which hurt. But that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, Richard Linklater in the book talks about how going, freshman summer, his ass hurt the whole time from the paddling he was subjected to.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
FT, what do you think the theme of Dazed and Confused is? We said, I started out saying, this movie seems slight and superficial, but there are deeper themes. I think, therefore, we should say, well, what are the themes?
Yeah.
We owe it to our listeners here.
Yeah, help me out here, buddy. Are you going to do nostalgia?
No. We're going to talk about I'm glad you brought that up because we should talk about nostalgia, but I don't think that's the theme. It's certainly...
Just, probably just the teenage uncertainty, Mm-hmm. That's what I always felt, when I was thinking about it, just the uncertainty of what's going on. You're not quite an adult, you're not,
right.
And you just don't know what the hell's going on,
Right. Not like now, where we really know what's going on.
No, but you even seek sort of greater thinking in like songs. That's the reason why the songs are so important. Right. You know what I mean? The poetry of certain songs. You know what I mean? Would be able to express what you're unable to express. It was a terrible time for me. I really.
Right. I think everything you said is absolutely valid for this film, but I wouldn't.
It's not thematic,
I wouldn't say it's the theme, and the reason I'm going to identify what I see as the theme, because it seems so explicit in the structure of the screenplay and the editing, because we start out with something and we end with something. It's the spine of the film, which is pink is he going to sign that? Is he going to sign this pledge?
The pledge.
And then we end the film on the pledge. Is he going to sign it or not sign it? And so what is the theme of the pledge? Well, I'll ask you that. I have a thought on what is the theme for the pledge? What is the theme for the movie?
Articulated for me. Independence. Freedom.
Yeah,
independence.
Boom,
Independence.
you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the theme is freedom versus
authority.
Freedom versus conformity
to the establishment
is the way I see it. The notion of social control fitting in versus do you capitulate to that or do you resist? And again, the hazing is not peripheral to that. With both Mitch and the girls, to be accepted. I mean, to be that. The young girl, I forget her, Julie maybe, or any of those girls, getting down on your knees in front of a guy and saying, will you marry me? The humiliation humiliation clearly is subjugating yourself to just so you can be part of the group, the herd.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you're independent, or you're trying to be independent of the establishment, the adult world, while at the same time, yearning to join and conform with the your peer world, right?
What do you?
You are living a life with drinking and having fun and all that,
right.
Which is avoiding the conforming to the adult expectations of coach and all that stuff. But on the other hand, you are going to, do everything in your power to conform to the expectations of your peers.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is all about, again, the freedom, the individual versus conforming. And you're right. Within the youth groups, once they're accepted, they hang out, they do things to be accepted in the group. But again, the central, what we see at the end is the pressure from not just from the coaches to play ball within his group. Don, everybody else is like, you can't. Yes. It looks like he's leaning from going against the group and making a choice based on what he wants to do. He doesn't want to conform. So again, it's all these conflicts between the individual and conforming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, the hazing is, again, just an outgrowth of this same theme. And I think, it's interesting to look at Mitch as a doppelganger of Pink, that Mitch is really just a 4-year younger version of Pink, coming into just like we know Pink did, submit to the hazing, everything else to be part of the group.
But she admits.
Yeah. And we can see Pink kind of coaching Mitch about, how to deal with this.
Put some ice on that thing.
Yeah. Don't. But there's other doppelgangers in this film. Did you spot any, FT?
No, help me out here.
O'Banion and Darla, the Parker Posey character, are the sadist male-female doppelgangers. And even in the script, Linklater has a cast of characters, and when the description of Darla is she's a female O'Banion.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
So she would even look more like him, or
Well, not about
that
looks,
would work.
But again, they're both. Think about them in this movie. They're both, one's the female sadist taking joy out of humiliating the freshman, and O'Banion is the male version of that.
O'Banion, but Parker Posey kind of ruins that a little bit, doesn't it? She's so funny, with that great line. You know what I mean? Like wipe that face off your head.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had the story that she actually got that. She was doing a Chekhov play of all things, where she said she either flubbed a line and said that, or and she thought it was funny, and so she brought it into this film. And Linklater loved it. Interesting. Linklater's process very improvisational.
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to. How do you say that with ending in ori?
Improvisatory. 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 Yes.
And we'll hear later. Even the characters completely changed during the shooting. And he, there's a quote from Linklater I don't have now. He said, "If we shoot this script, we've failed."
Huh.
And Kevin Smith talked about that being a big inspiration to him. Very different from a filmmaker, say like Alfred Hitchcock, where
Yeah,
the
stick
script.
to the, a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the performance, not in the writing. Huh. So a lot of improv, added lines or suggested lines open to that. Interesting.
Yeah.
It feels that way, by the way. It feels that way.
Yeah.
It really feels free. You know what I mean? It does.
Which when it works,
it does, yeah.
When it works, I think it's a great thing for a film. In earlier podcasts we've talked about, I think that's what makes the films of like a Paul Thomas Anderson magic is that live, energetic feel versus some other films that just feel so pre-planned, so rehearsed, so they feel and you can admire the craftsmanship, but they feel less exciting than a film that allows some improvisation and exploration. Right. FT, earlier you brought up the word, the N-word. Do you remember
that? No.
Yeah, you said nostalgia.
Oh, nostalgia. Yes. Oh, okay. Nostalgia. Yes.
Yeah. And so this is, and I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think it's the theme, but it's definitely, this film is very much about nostalgia. And this is the second film we've done on They Shoot Films where we felt nostalgia was an important part of the film. Do you remember the first one?
Well, I did. Now I'm on the spot.
It's Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was an episode we did earlier on They Shoot Films, where we talked quite a bit about nostalgia and kind of the whole meaning and background of the word nostalgia. If you haven't heard that episode, it's a good one. It's actually our most downloaded podcast of any podcast we've ever done is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Is that so?
Yeah.
I believe it.
Any thoughts on why that might be our why it's so popular, FT?
No. Any thoughts you have, Ken?
I do, but I thought you usually say something like, "Oh, well, people like your theory is usually, oh, people like that film. That's why it gets downloaded more."
I believe that's the case. And it's an interesting film, but we already talked about it. It's fictional history. There's a lot of going for it. Big stars. Yeah. Unlike this one, yeah.
Right. I do have a theory of why it's our most downloaded episode ever.
Why?
I think Quentin Tarantino probably tells people, when he runs into people, he's like, hey, if you really want to understand what I was trying to do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you've got to listen to They Shoot Films. So
right.
Those guys really explain it in a way I could not explain
not
it
even
in
try.
my thousands of interviews. Well, we know Quentin Tarantino is not very verbose. He doesn't like to talk about himself or his films.
No,
so he likes They Shoot Films to do the talking for him.
Yeah, and he didn't even write a novel based on it. You know what I mean? With filling in the scenes. You know what I mean? He had nothing to say. He was done. When he did it, he was done. Yes.
So in that episode, which again, if you ever go back to, we talk about a lot of the origins of the whole concept of nostalgia and the word, and it's pretty fascinating. But in preparing for this podcast episode, I actually discovered some more things, which I wish we had put in there, but since we haven't, we should pick them up here.
Go ahead, buddy.
So we never gave credit to the person who coined the term nostalgia. And it's Johann Hofer, and he was a Swiss medical student, and he formed the word as a portmanteau. Do you know what a portmanteau is, FT?
Yeah, I used to. No, what is it?
I think it's when you combine two words and it turns into a new word. You just take two existing words and put them together, and now, presto, you've got a new word. I think that's a portmanteau. Do I have that wrong?
I don't know, maybe, but let's assume it is, or something very much like it.
So he put together two words, Latin words, nostos, which was homecoming.
Homecoming.
Yeah, and algos, or algos, which is pain or an ache.
Pain.
So it's literally a homesickness. It's a pain for what you're missing, where you've come from. And we talked about that on the previous podcast. But what I found out afterwards is that, again, Hofer used it to denote an actual sickness, a malady of...
A real pain, an illness.
Yes.
Right.
Swiss mercenaries who were fighting in distant lands, not in Switzerland, would develop this sickness, and it was actually a medical disease.
Right.
And Hofer, who was a Swiss medical student, came up with this term, nostalgia as a medical term for what these Swiss soldiers who were away from home were suffering from. And he attributed it to something he called mal du Suisse.
Mal du Suisse.
Yes.
The badness of Switzerland? Mal?
No, the Swiss disease. The Swiss malady.
Right. Like a headache. Yes.
And he developed, with every disease, they always come up, well, it's caused by X. Okay, so he figured out what caused this nostalgia,
which is Switzerland itself.
No, he wrote, it went into the medical textbooks. Nostalgia was a disease, and what the cause of it, just like strep throat is caused by certain bacteria. Heart failure or cholesterol. So he worked up what the cause of mal de Suisse, of nostalgia was. Can you guess what it was, FT?
Not being in Switzerland.
No, well,
water.
No. It was he found that he said it was an ear and brain. It was ear and brain. What?
Nothing. Go ahead. I think I heard this or I read this somewhere. Go ahead.
Okay.
But I forget.
It's ear and brain. He said it was ear and brain damage that had resulted from the clanging of cowbells. It was too much literally, the saying, more cowbell. It was literally a cowbell overdose. Had given them brain and ear damage. That's what he thought caused nostalgia.
Wait a second. So there was too many cowbells in foreign lands?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe in Switzerland they had been exposed to too many cowbells.
Speaking of the last podcast we did, I did read the novel of The Pledge, and it's mentioned several times, the cowbells. You could hear the cowbells.
In Switzerland?
Yes. Yeah, taking place in the novel. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe it was, being
too many
exposed
cowbells.
to too many cowbells, brain damage and brain damage. So again, nostalgia coming back to bringing things back home away from cowbells.
to us.
Nostalgia is a pain for the past, what is lost. And Soren Kierkegaard will make yet another back-to-back appearance. Because we talked about
triple.
Really?
Triple appearances. Yeah, he was in Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Oh, wow. Okay, so...
Yeah, it's his third time.
Three episodes in a row. We've talked about Soren Kierkegaard.
Royalties.
He said something about this whole concept of nostalgia, which I really like. And this was from his journals. Quote, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards.
Yes.
And that's so much, I think, the theme of this... Another theme of this film, and what makes it so poignant, is we see in this ethnographic, anthropological documentary camera watching these people without really commenting on them or letting them speak for themselves. They're just trying to sort out their place in time and the future and in the world.
Yeah.
And, it's really brought home, I think, this whole point, and there's an irony. Cynthia, who's played by
Marissa Ribisi.
Marissa Ribisi, by the way, Giovanni Ribisi's younger sister. She basically echoes Kierkegaard's theory of that having a perspective on life is really, you only get perspective in retrospect. You only understand things in retrospect. So she has that famous quote, but again, she says it, and it's ironic the way she says it.
It's like the every other decade theory, The 50s were boring, the 60s rocked, the 70s, oh my God, they obviously suck. Right? Come on. Maybe the 80s will be radical. I figure we'll be in our 20s and, hey, it can't get any worse.
The irony of that is this whole nostalgia thing, things always seem better in retrospect. So in the 70s, everybody was like, wow, you should have been there for the 60s. The 60s were where it's at. The irony now, when she says the 70s, my God, they obviously suck, is, as evidenced by this film, the 70s now is a decade everybody looks back on with great nostalgia.
Yeah.
The irony again is, so maybe the 80s will be like Radical. Now, when I saw this movie in the theater in 1993, everybody laughed in 1993 that the 80s would be like Radical. But now in the Trump era, we look back at the 80s with fondness.
I'm not sure about the 80s being so.
Oh, no. Now 80s or 80s music, MTV. I listened to a podcast with some younger podcasters, younger than me. They talk about the 90s, all these things from the 90s that they, since they came of age in the 90s that they look back on. And they go to concerts of these 90s bands I've never heard of. So it's interesting. We always look, we downgrade the present. The present is, we always look ahead. The past was great. The future is going to be great, hopefully. But man, today sucks.
Well, in my opinion, today is particularly sucky
because of the podcast. No.
Just culturally and politically, unlike a lot of those other decades. It's an unusual situation here. With Trump and the MAGA and the cultural divide. What is going on.
Yeah.
And nothing really like it. A little bit with the anti-Vietnam War business, with the anti-war movement and the, what do you call it? Silent majority, of Richard Nixon, that business. The country was divided then, and it led to violence.
Yeah. I actually have a quote from the man himself on nostalgia, Richard Linklater on nostalgia. Can I read that quote to you?
Yes. And you're being polite, what happens if I say no?
I won't read it. Do you want me to skip it?
Now I want to know what it is. You got to read it before I tell you to skip it.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go hit it.
Okay.
Yes.
So Richard Linklater said, quote, "Obviously, I draw a lot of creative inspiration from the past, what people would call nostalgia. But when I was making Dazed, I was thinking about how nostalgia can be a dangerous thing. People are nostalgic for times that never fucking existed. When you think about the past, you have to try to remember what was really going on. When people say, quote, those were the good times, I always have to remind them, no, that time sucked."
Right. There were sucky parts of that time. Absolutely. I had a friend, or I have a friend, got in touch with a high school friend.
Me?
No, from, and she lives in Texas. And we were talking, we got in touch after years and years, and she was just like, those were good times, weren't they? She was voicing this theory about being back in high school in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. And you know what my response was? The good times were...
What?
The good times were good times. Those were good. Those were parentheses, all good times, basically good times. The nostalgic argument. Right. But me, I never felt that. I mean, no, the good times were, but there were like shitty times. Absolutely. So when you say we, you're talking about, you're generalizing there because not all of us. And I don't want to be some crazy outlier, but you're the same way.
No, I'm not. You are the crazy you are a crazy outlier, which was why you were recruited to be the co-host of this show, because we wanted a crazy outlier to be representative. But FT, it's actually a well-known. No, I'm being serious here. It's actually a well-known psychological theory called fading affect bias, FAB, fading affect bias. And this is well established in the psychological literature that negative emotions from the past fade faster than the positive emotions. And so we do tend to look back on things and remember them as the good old days, but we're forgetting all the horrible, the bad things. I think there's an irony in this film because, again, Linklater is interested in this. The teacher, the history teacher, she says, and I'm going to pull a quote here from her from the film. Mm-hmm. She says, as she's sending the kids off to the bicentennial summer of 1776, she says, "Okay, guys, one more thing. This summer, when you're being inundated with all this American bicentennial 4th of July brouhaha, don't forget what you're celebrating, and that's the fact that a bunch of slave-owning, aristocratic white males didn't want to pay their taxes." So I think that brings this theme home again. We lionize, we worship these good old days, and the days we're celebrating were not all good. No days were all good, which is your point, FT.
Yes.
But I think this fading affect bias, my theory is that it's an evolutionary thing that humans have developed.
Okay. That's your theory.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember my wife when she what?
Should we have the drum roll first or the rim shot first?
No,
I think it's an evolutionary thing.
No,
and then you tell the joke.
No, there's no. Sorry, this is going to.
There's no joke here.
There's no joke. I was trying to be serious. Yeah, FT, come on. Yeah, so my wife, when she was giving birth to our daughter, it was not a easy childbirth, and it went on forever and ever. The cord was wrapped around my daughter's neck, and they had to rush her into surgery. Yeah, thanks for laughing, by the way.
She made it.
They had to rush her into surgery, cesarean section, and sorry, before it went on for so long, and of course there were a lot of childbirth classes leading up to the birth, and we went to all these classes, it was about breathing. My wife was like, I am not having drugs. This is going to be a natural childbirth. And, at the, 10th hour of agony, and the cord, our daughter wouldn't come out, and my wife was, I need the epidural now. I need the epidural, and they said, sorry, it's too late. Whatever you're pushing. You're not, you can't. We can't give it to you now. And my wife was just like, it was so horrible. I mean, I actually, and then they had to take her into surgery. And when she went into surgery, I'm not kidding. I went into the chapel in the hospital. And I was so freaked out. And fortunately, the surgery went fine. And I am just so fucking freaked out. And they take the baby out of the room and clean it up to her, clean it up, and then bring it in so my wife can hold our daughter. And the nurse says, don't worry, honey, just because you had one cesarean, your next doesn't mean your next child is going to have to be born cesarean. And my wife is like, oh, and just smiles. And I'm like, we're never having another, I'm never going through this again.
Forget that, yes.
Yeah, so I think it's like evolutionary that we couldn't go on if we didn't let go of the painful stuff. I think life would just seem we wouldn't look forward to the present. We would just really think life sucked. But now we can always, gird ourselves with like, oh man, I remember the good old days.
True. But, there are people that suffer from, PTSD, so it's not a automatic, it might be evolutionary in general, to repression, the well-known mechanism of repression, but not everybody not everybody glosses over those times as good old times.
Yes.
Yes.
The other theme, I think, in Dazed and Confused, related to nostalgia, is history, which again is just another way of looking, trying to decipher what's actually happened.
The way.
To come to
history.
terms with what's actually happened. And it's related to nostalgia. And I think Dazed is making the point, and we brought up the quote from the teacher, Miss Stroud, that history is not as it is often described, and that history can be used to, again, in this conformity and to make people behave in a certain way. But the other great quote that I think proves this point, Slater states it pretty succinctly, and Anne-Marie might want to punch it in, a way of looking at history. Miss Stroud already just said, hey, this 1776, honoring our forefathers weren't necessarily what they're cracked up to be.
This country was founded by people who were into aliens, man. George Washington, man, he was in a cult, and the cult was into aliens, man. You didn't know that? No. Oh, man, they were way into that type of stuff.
George toked weed.
Absolutely, George toked weed. Are you kidding me, man? He grew fields of that stuff, man. That's what I'm talking about. Fields.
He grew that shit up in Mount Vernon, man.
Mount Vernon, man, he grew it all over the country, man. He had people growing it all over the country, The whole country back then was getting hot. Let me tell you, man, because he knew. He was on to something, man. He knew that it would be a good cash crop for the southern states, man. And so he grew fields of it, man. But you know what? Behind every good man, there's a woman. And that woman was Martha Washington, man. And every day George would come home, she'd have a big fat bowl waiting for him, man, when he'd come in the door, man. She was a hip lady, man.
Society is trying to make kids, if you're going to be a good person, you don't smoke pot, you don't do these things. It's the bicentennial. And Slater's pointing out, that the people enshrined in the history books had, they had slaves. They probably smoked pot. They probably drank too much. They might have cursed from time, so
Yes.
that history is, again, kind of this tool of coercion being used kind of just like the pledges. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Like, make America great again. When was America, why isn't America great now? And when was it so great that you want to return to?
Right.
That's all implied there. The 50s, where there was Jim Crow, segregation, the 40s, when there was the war, the Depression, when most people were poor, but, anyhow, when were the great times?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. What's great about this film is each of the characters, it's not a cast of each character is distinct. When, we follow so many characters. Every time somebody pops back on, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's Tony or whatever. So, again, good job by Richard Linklater. But the cast is interesting, and I think as always plays such a huge role in the success of films in general. In this film, they did not want to have any familiar faces.
Right.
Because Linklater felt like, if it's an actor, he's going to bring the baggage to this film.
Absolutely.
There's an irony here, though, FT. Can you spot the irony? I know you usually spot irony at 1,000 paces.
Well, when you watch the one thing I noticed was when you watch it years later, you see Ben Affleck in it.
Right.
And you go like, what the hell? I mean, he's big time. And it makes you start wondering, how big was he back then?
No, it was his first part, right?
Well, one of his first parts. He said he was, I saw an interview where he talked about he was, sick of playing bullies, and he, I think he had parts in TV shows or something like that.
No, that's the irony now is that he wanted all unknown figures.
Parker Posey,
launched Parker Posey, launched Marissa Ribisi, launched a gentleman named Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, right, the big one, yeah.
Oh, sorry, and so I'll. And sorry, the other thing that was refreshing, they insisted on having them actually be underage kids.
Yep, the freshmen were freshmen.
Except for Wooderson.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because, they were so young and, if you read the All Right book, which I highly recommend, so Linklater brought all these kids to Austin, and they were kids, they were underage, to Austin for the summer. And he said, it's going to be like summer camp. And the goings on amongst the cast is just like, you can imagine the sex, the romances, the drugs.
Yeah.
And so it was like summer camp. He shot it, I think he started shooting in July, and the cast now all talk about it was like the best time of their lives. But this film launched so many careers. Here's a trivia question, the trivia question of this episode, FT. One of the careers that was launched was a female star that is in the film, but she is uncredited. And I'll give you a clue. She's seen as one of the senior.
I know who it is.
Okay, good. Who is it?
I know who it is because I noticed. I go, is that Renee Zellweger?
You got it, Frank. FT.
No. When I watch it, I'm like, wait.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, I saw it. I'm like, what the hell? Actually, I got her confused at first with Parker Posey's partner. The one she's always. What's her name?
I don't know.
Pink's girlfriend. At first, my first glance was that Renee's? And then all of a sudden, during a hazing scene, I believe.
Yes.
She's she has a bit part there. Yes.
Yeah, she's uncredited, but it was Renee Zellweger's first film role.
How about that? I did it. Frank won.
Yeah.
Trivia 0.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's 10 to 1.
So it was Matthew McConaughey's first film.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Originally, he had one line to speak.
Get out of here.
Yeah. No, he had one line. The line was, he gets in the car, he's driving the car. Mitch gets in. Do you have a joint? And Mitch says, not on me. And McConaughey says, well, it would be a lot cooler if you did.
Yes.
Yeah. And Richard Linklater liked what McConaughey was doing so much that he kept expanding the part, actually bumped another actor, I think, off the film or out, and gave McConaughey the other actor's lines, and it became this much bigger part. It's interesting that McConaughey, his voice, his mannerisms are almost identical today that they were back in this film.
Yes.
I'd love to put together McConaughey as Wooderson in this film cut together with McConaughey as Russ Cole in True Detective, I feel they're going to sound almost the same, the way they talk.
Interesting.
Man, it's the same bullshit they tried to pull in my day. You know, if it ain't that piece of paper, some other choice they're gonna try and make for you. You gotta do what Randall Pink Floyd wants to do, man. And let me tell you this, the older you do get, the more rules are gonna try to get you to follow. You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle. Everything we've ever done or will do, we're gonna do over and over and over again. And that little boy and that little girl, they're gonna be in that room again and again and again, forever.
And that laconic Texas drawl was not his natural. He kind of put that on for this Dazed and Confused role, apparently.
Huh.
And like I said, he's kind of rode that he's taken that to the bank.
Yeah.
And I think good for him, because I think I think McConaughey does something special that's rare in an actor.
What's that, my friend?
He's able to seem so relaxed and
right.
laid back.
Natural.
Well,
yeah.
Beyond natural. There's a lot of actors who can seem realistic and natural.
No,
but it's rare that an actor can seem so laid back. And I think the reason for that is, and I know you've acted, I've acted, when the camera rolls, you're so pent up, you've got so much energy and you're trying to do something. It's always harder to do less. But in being able to be so laid back, and I think the audience, if you can be an actor who can be laid back without somehow going over the edge to be sleepy or soporific, I think the audience loves you. I mean, I think it's Nicholson too has always been able to do that.
Right.
Seems so laid back.
Right.
Chris Walken, you're
my voice,
the actor that you made so much money imitating. Walken, the same way, the speech pattern is so relaxed and laid back and unrushed that it's special. And like I said, not boring. It's exciting. You're like waiting. What's he going to say next? You're waiting on the actor's next word. Do you agree with that at all?
Yeah, I do. Do you see that somewhat in James Dean and Brando?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's a good one, FT. Yeah, so that's
versus the Hollywood system, which had people just, like Ray Milland and who were boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were laid back and boring. Some of them were.
Well, I think that's a great point, because obviously, Brando
and Monty Cliff.
And Monty Cliff were, specifically Brando, the actors that launched a million imitators.
Yes.
And everybody was modeling Brando. Everybody was modeling Jimmy Dean. But I think of those guys, they are slower than what came before them, but they're working. It's always like, the pauses in Brando and the time in Brando and the stretching out in Brando, and Jimmy Dean, who was obviously modeling himself, following Brando, is to show, they're doing work in their head. They're thinking, you can see them working. Whereas I don't get that from McConaughey or necessarily Nicholson when they're working. They just are like so laid back.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, that's your impression.
And it just seems it seems free and easy, and I think the audience responds to that.
Yes, I don't see them as I don't see the relaxed and Brando.
No, as being
working, as obviously working. I just don't see it that way. But whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
I definitely do. I see.
Well, I can see Jack as working too. I mean, in Chinatown. I mean, you can. Anyhow, this is like you can. Do you see
McConaughey as working in this film when he's pausing?
When his famous line. Yeah,
okay,
I saw him working on the famous line.
I want to talk about the famous line. Let's talk about it.
What's the famous line exactly? Because I always screw it up. About high school girls.
Yeah, he looks at some high school girls and he says, "I get older, they stay the same age."
No, well, the whole thing is, you know what I like about high school girls.
All right, we'll plug. Anne-Marie will plug it in.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll plug it in.
So you're a freshman, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, man, how's this year's crop of freshman chicks looking?
Wood, you're gonna end up in jail sometime really soon. I know that for a fact.
No, man. No, man, I tell you.
Yeah.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, you know what I like about high school girls? And he's like looking, and that's where I see him working, because he's not looking at any high school girls. He's doing the work as if he's seeing the high school girls. And he says, what? I get older and they stay the same age.
Again, I was going to bring this line up. I'm glad you beat me to the punch. I see this as, again, the mark of a future star.
Oh, yeah.
An actor who can deliver that line without seeming completely like a predator and a creep. That's star quality. And McConaughey, it's such, especially into this day and age, watching it's a very uncomfortable line, but still Matthew McConaughey it does not seem predatory or it's in a way, and I think again the intent of the script there, it's winsome, it's sad.
Yes, it is.
It's melancholic of him looking, it's acknowledging him aging, and but youth springs eternal, as somebody once said.
Yes. We're always great at naming the quotes. Rustling through, like, who said that? Youth springs eternal, some Greek. Right.
Yes.
And you know what, though? Honestly, it is, even at the time, it was creepy. I mean, it is creepy, but guess what? The problem is you like this fucking creep.
Right.
It's like Parker Posey is really rotten, but you like her because she's funny. You know what I mean? But she's really rotten.
Yeah.
You do not like Ben Affleck. You don't like, what's his name? Benny, or no, he's not Benny. O'Banya. You do not like him. He's an asshole.
Yeah.
Flunked twice, fucking prick,
No, and as you brought up, this was Affleck's concern about taking the role, and he was always being cast as bullies. And I think that was a lot of the impetus, by the way, for writing Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, absolutely.
With Matt Damon, so he could play a different kind of part, and obviously that worked out quite well for him.
Yeah.
Interestingly, McConaughey, after this role, everybody thought they were going to use him because of that as a kind of an Eric Roberts, kind of a little bit a creepy guy. And somehow he managed to escape that by, I think, A Time to Kill was his next film, which broke him out of that path.
Yeah. Well, you just wait long enough, like Johnny Depp was, what he started on Jump Street 21 or whatever. He started
21 Jump Street.
Yeah, some stupid TV show,
Right.
And he's,
You brought up the soundtrack, FT. We should touch on it since it's such an important part of the film and was so important to Richard Linklater. Most of the battles on this film with the studio were actually over the soundtrack.
Huh.
The producers who were in his corner the whole time, and it was so good that Linklater did this, but he cost the producers all their back-end money. And what happened was the studio... so Universal, the movie company, also had a music arm, as most of the studios like Warner Brothers did too. And so Universal was going to put out the soundtrack on Universal, of course. And the money they were advancing for the soundtrack went into the production budget for the movie. And then the Universal people in charge of the soundtrack said, fine, we'll use these songs, because Linklater had the songs from the beginning. He created mixtapes and sent it. For each actor got a different mixtape with different songs.
Huh.
And famously, Adam Goldberg, who plays Mike, hated his mixtape because he was Goldberg was usually into Neil Young, and he got this mixtape with Foghat.
No Neil on
like,
it.
Foghat and stuff he hated, and he was insulted.
Right.
But the studio was like, oh man, we can really make money on this because we just signed this new band who is you've never heard of from again. We will take these songs, Foghat, Aerosmith songs, but we're going to have this new band
cover them
in the studio, and that way it'll be it'll be much more money for them. And by the time Linklater found out about it, the band had already gone into the studio and cut. I think there was so much battles, and so then the studio's like, okay, we won't have them do the whole soundtrack. We're going to have this great new band that we've signed go into the studio and record the Guess Who song, "We're an American Band," and that will play over the end credits. And Linklater found out about this after the studio. The whole thing was done. They had booked a big studio, recorded this thing. And Linklater was like, "This is I'm never going to be able to. It's going to ruin the film for me." The producer's like, "Hey, come on, it's the end credit. Nobody's even going to be in the theater.
Everybody be gone by that point." Yeah,
and Linklater just wouldn't let it go.
Good for him.
And and so Linklater called the band, and said, "Look, I know you. This is my film. You did it for the film, and I hate this. And please tell them you're pulling out." Amazingly, the band told said, "We can't do this to the filmmaker. We're out." And because of that, they lost all the soundtrack money, so the budget had a huge hole blown in it, and the producers basically kicked in all their basically ended up making nothing on the film. So that Linklater
on
could
the back
buy,
end.
It might not have been in the back end. They had to give up all this money.
Right. Production money, right?
Because when they lost the money, he couldn't buy the rights to the film, the songs for the soundtrack, and
he had Dylan and all that, right?
Sorry. And Dylan, it's interesting. That song sticks out like a sore thumb in the soundtrack to me. Dylan's song "Hurricane." With the Foghat songs and all those, it just seems like a sore thumb. And in the book, All Right, somebody he went to high school with talks about the Emporium, the real Emporium in Huntsville, Texas, and they say they always remember Hurricane playing on the Emporium jukebox, and they say every song on that soundtrack was on the jukebox at the Emporium.
Even Dr. John and all that, the ones that I recognize. Yeah.
So the soundtrack opens with the shot of the GTO pulling into the parking lot to the tune of Aerosmith's "Sweet Emotion," and again, everything seems accidental, but again, that's the spine of the movie, because of course we end the film with them going off to buy Aerosmith tickets. The priority of this summer, as Pink puts it. I found that very accurate to that year, because I remember the first big concert I went to in New York City was Aerosmith. Right around that year.
You mean Madison Square Garden big concert?
You knew they were at Madison Square Garden?
No. I just guess. I mean,
Yeah, so Aerosmith played Madison Square Garden, and it was a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah, a kid from New Jersey, and my mother drove me and my friend Mark from suburban New Jersey to Madison Square Garden. And this was like a huge, just like these kids, they're going to an Aerosmith concert, which is huge, and being able to go in Madison Square Garden. But I'll never forget, my mom pulls up right in front of Madison Square Garden. What street is that again? On Madison Square Garden?
What's that, 34th and something? Or I forget.
But what's the avenue? She dropped us on the avenue.
I forgot.
And she pulls over in a yellow zone, and it's all these older kids, and they're all wearing Zeppelin t-shirts, and me and my little probably freshmen in high school get out of the car, and we're trying to blend in, and my mom sticks her head out of the car and yells, "Don't do drugs."
Nice try. Almost famous. Ding. Right.
Good one, FT.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have to spell that out for you. Good one.
No.
Yeah. So the last scene in the film, they drive off to get Aerosmith tickets.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I go out on limbs just so FT can get out his saw and cut them down.
Never.
I'm going to say this. You're going to scoff at this. I think this is one of the greatest final shots in all of cinema.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, it's a good one. I mean,
I think it's one of the greatest in all of cinema, because just cinematic. So I'm talking about the four of them are in that car. And dawn, it's dawn. They've been up all night partying. They light a joint.
Yes.
They drive into the light is incredible. And then it reverses and we see the road ahead.
Right.
And it, it's pure cinema in the sense that it says so much. It perfectly captures the feeling for me of being up all night, partying,
yes.
and the sun.
Yes.
And again, because of his insistence on using natural light, and I think getting lucky the way the light was, and Lee Danielson, and the way the characters, look, it feels so real.
Yes.
And then that reverse to the road ahead, as without a word, without dialogue,
right.
it clearly the audience is like thinking, okay, we've seen a day in the life of these characters at this, this tipping point in their lives. What's going to become of them?
Yes. They are leaving town. They are going off into the future.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The summer is,
future that could be filled with promise or not. I mean, I think that's the poignant thing for me is, and it's great because when you watch the film and think about it, it should leave the audience thinking that shot, well, what does lie ahead for these characters?
Yes.
And I think what's poignant for me is, and I've sat and pondered it, I don't think any of them go on to live lives of greatness. I think they go on to live lives, of small
desperation.
Quiet desperation, yeah.
Right.
We were talking about the feeling of the final scene, capturing the feeling of staying up all night doing drugs, and it made me think about the old days when after I'd first met you, I'd worked on your independent. Sorry, what year were you shooting your independent feature that I was an actor?
82, I think.
82.
Yeah.
So much earlier. You were too early,
yeah.
FT. You were too early for your time.
Yeah.
But I remember a night with you and drugs, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and then. As the sun was coming up, driving from New Jersey into New York City to H&H Bagels to buy bagels as the sun came up. Do you remember that?
I certainly do, my friend. Oh,
and they say that truth is stranger than fiction, but our night of drugs and drinking. Coming into the dawn,
yes,
was played out differently than in this film. Do you remember what happened, FT?
I do not. Yes, I do, but I like the way you tell it. I remember. Go ahead.
I was so excited to finally make it from New Jersey to H&H Bagels. The sun coming up, perfect morning.
Holland Tunnel, right?
The bakers inside making bagels, and I drove my car into, and sorry, I can only say that because the statute of limitations is now long expired. Drove my car into the front of H&H Bagels.
What you said? Who's that car coming at us? You saw the reflection of the car.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Are you serious?
I thought that you were like, wait, there's another car coming. And I'm like, well, hit the brakes. And you were like...
So literally a bird brain. Literally a bird brain, like a bird when he sees its reflections in...
Right. Oh, my God. That's what I was ever... And I'm like, oh, my God.
Okay, so again, this is, FT, and this is where we got to end the show, but we'll end it. Once in a while, I like to give FT the final word, but this time I'm going to take the final word. You heard FT push back on the FAB, where we remember things as being rosier than they are.
Yes.
But it seems like FT, even though after I remember distinctly, I crashed my car at H&H Bagel, and FT was just holding his neck, screaming, "Whiplash, whiplash, lawyer, I want a lawyer." And now he's like, he's laughing about it. And so I think the bad things do fade in memory. How's your neck, FT?
No, my neck's fine, and it wasn't the problem. But you also seem to forget that we were running away from invisible cops. You backed out. We peeled out, man, back into the Holland Tunnel. It was like, get the hell back to Jersey. Oh, my God. I was looking out the back window. Oh, my God. We were scared.
But you're laughing about it now, and boom, that's FAB, that's functional attribute.
No. Wait a minute, buddy. We were laughing. I'm sorry. The drugs we were, I mean, it was a mixture. I mean, we were like, holy shit, and then laughing, and then holy shit, a little bit like in this film.
Yeah. And these days you can get H&H Bagels delivered to you anywhere in the world.
And let's point out it was the H&H Bagel factory, not the store on the.
Oh, I've heard they're totally different now. They're not like they were back in the day. Again, that might be FAB speaking.
I don't know what they're bigger than what they.
I think
they were
just
normal
taste,
sized.
Right, but I think now they taste different. I don't know. I think they're owned by Philip Morris now, I think. Anyway, we got to go, FT.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, let's like I said, I feel like I snuck in the last word, but
It's a
I
good
feel
one.
like we're ending on a positive note because you're laughing, you're going away happy, and
Yes.
And hopefully you'll only, when you look back, you'll only remember the good parts of this podcast. Recording and not the negative. Have a good one, FT. I'm sorry we didn't get this in before you switched over to your white pants. Want to thank everybody for, and again, our apologies for not being in your feed last Tuesday. Glad we're in this Tuesday. We'll be in the first Tuesday of next month, which means we got to get cracking on the next film, FT.
Yes.
Thank everybody for listening. If you're not already subscribed, and again, we're sorry if we're with this funky schedule. If you subscribe in your podcast player of choice, you'll get every episode right when it comes out. You won't have to think about it. You won't have to think about it as much as we do, which would be a good thing. Thanks for listening, everybody. FT, thanks for talking. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being who you are, Ken.
Thanks for being who you are. All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Sound like Teletubbies. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
They Shoot Films is a production of Film Symposium West. Produced by Anne-Marie De Palma. Studio announcer Roy Blumenfeld.